So after making one slightly political video and another video that I thought wasn't really political, but turns out according to a giant thread on Reddit, it was very political, I'm gonna not really do political stuff anymore. I don't really think I have the wherewithal to follow up on all the comments and things that come in, and responding to criticism just takes a lot of energy, and honestly it seems to end up feeling like I'm spinning my wheels a bit with it. Maybe I'll revisit some of it later, but I still do want to keep doing videos. Oh, here's Piper, the lamb, and Gator. Some of you mentioned in the comments. I do still want to do videos, but I guess maybe for a while I'll keep them more about my own personal experience in transition and not speak generally about the state of trans politics or the state of left-wing politics or the LGBT community, and my opinions on it, because I don't really know how helpful they actually are. I think maybe they would just create argumentation and not resolution, which wasn't really my goal. But I did have some questions on some of my previous videos that I wanted to talk about, and they were mainly about what my life is like now, I guess almost 7 years into transition. I started in late 2011. So I thought I would just talk about a few of those things, and in particular, the medical aspects of it, personal life and work life, I guess, were the main questions. So I'll just start with the personal. I'm married. I got married 2 years ago to Kelsey, who was in a couple of my early videos. We've been together now for almost the entirety of the time I've been transitioning. I think I started transitioning when I was, I guess I was 27, and I met her maybe like 6 or 8 months into my transition. And she made my transition so much more fun than it would have otherwise been. She helped me through some of the most difficult times, some of the most awkward and embarrassing situations. She was kind of there for and pushing me through and encouraging me throughout the whole thing. So I have to give her a ton of credit in helping to make parts of my transition fun, and then making the really painful, hard parts less painful and less difficult. So needless to say, we got married. So that's been wonderful. That's been the last 2 years. We bought a house together. She's also my business partner. So I think I'd mentioned in maybe one of my early videos, I used to own a marketing agency that was sold kind of in the midst of my transition, and that made for some interesting work-related scenarios as I was initially coming out to my partners at the company that bought my agency, and then also all of my coworkers. I ended up having a pretty amazing experience there. Like, through my transition, I managed to make a handful of close friends who really were super supportive of me, and I was very lucky in a lot of ways there. During the earlier stages of my transition, though, I stepped back a lot from, I guess, right when I was starting to become more like ambiguously gendered or androgynous, is when I kind of stepped back a little bit from client-facing roles and worked more on the creative side of things. So that was an interesting period, and there were some difficulties associated with it, but overall it wasn't too terrible or traumatic or anything like that. I can't think back on any specific experiences that felt like really, really bad. Bunch of instances of being misgendered and things like that, but like partially way through your transition, people don't necessarily know what gender you are, so nothing really atypical. After that, ended up leaving that company and starting a new company with my partner, Kelsey, and my brother and my brother-in-law, and that's the new company that we've been running together for the last 5 years. Over that time period, I guess maybe like the first 6 months or so, I was still pretty early on in my transition, so I wasn't doing like client-facing things, but I pushed myself really hard to start doing that as soon as I possibly could, and as soon as I kind of felt comfortable. And that seemed to work out until it was kind of back at a point where I was doing just as much client-facing business stuff as I had been prior to transition. I could do a whole video on what it's like in the business world as a man versus a woman. I guess I won't go into too much detail here, but needless to say, I have noticed differences, mainly along the lines of what you would kind of assume, like people don't necessarily take you as seriously initially, or people make assumptions about who's in charge or what your role is in a company based on your gender. Also based on what age you look like you are, I find a lot as well. So like ageism is a real thing. I'm sure it's very different depending on what industry you're talking about. I'm talking about internet marketing, essentially, which I think has a more even distribution of men and women in it, since it's a field that I think is pretty well represented currently by both genders, which I think is pretty nice. It's not like a male-dominated field or something like that. So yeah, business and life. I could get into a lot more detail. Maybe I will in future videos. And then health stuff. So I think I made a video about gender reassignment surgery, which I had about 3.5, 4 years ago now. Everything went fine with that. My trans-related healthcare is now really about hormones, making sure my hormone levels are where they should be. I'm actually, for the last 3 years, maybe 2 years, I've been using gel estrogen, which I find is the easiest to apply, and I get pretty consistent levels, and I don't notice mood swings. The one drawback with it is the maximum prescription amount that you can get only lasts me like 25 days. So every few months I end up having to pay out of pocket for a new one because my insurance won't cover it, which is really annoying. So I'm looking into other options there. I have an appointment in 2 days, potentially, to get a pellet. I guess I'm not really in favor of taking pill form because of the increased blood clot risks. I'm only taking estrogen right now. I may add progesterone if I can find a doctor who can prescribe me like a gel-based form of it or a topical form of it or a patch perhaps, or if they make it in a pellet as well, considering that. But that's really it on the health front too. So everything is good. Haven't had any issues. Cross my fingers, knock on wood. And yeah, and then I guess maybe like the personal emotional aspects of transition. Day to day, I'm super happy. Like, this is where I wanted to be from the very beginning, and I feel like I've gotten here. In some senses, I think it can feel like a little sad. The transition's over. Like, there's not really any further to go. I had facial feminization surgery in December of last year, but it was really pretty mild. I just had my forehead shaved down. I got a nose job, but you can really tell mostly by my profile. Although I don't know if you could see a profile in any of my previous videos. And then hairline, but I have a kind of a high hairline still, but it's a little bit lower than it was. And anyway, I'm really happy with it. I went to Dr. Mayer in Beverly Hills. He's pretty well known, I'd say. You should go to him if you're looking for like not anything drastic and you really want to look like a slightly more feminized version of yourself, which was kind of what I was going for. So yeah, I was really happy with the result there. I healed very quickly. I thought he did a fantastic job. So that was like my most recent thing. And that's it, I guess. This is very extemporaneous, so I apologize for that, but maybe you learned a little bit more about me and my life if you were curious. And if you guys have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And if you like the content that I create and you want me to keep creating more, then definitely subscribe and comment and let me know what else I should be making videos on.